There you go. Good afternoon, everyone. And I would like to welcome you to the Electoral Area Services Committee this afternoon for the Sunshine Coast Regional District. It's happening today on June 18th, starting at 1. And I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting within the territories of the Sechelt Nation and the Squamish Nations. We have an agenda here before us, and is there any additions or changes to this agenda? Looking at the directors, not seeing anyone. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda? Moved, seconded, all of those in favor? That passes. And we now have a presentation from the Coastal Douglas Fir Conservation Partnership and the UBC Botanical Gardens. And apparently they're on Zoom, so we'll be calling them up. Just bear with us as we get the technology. Okay. For the delegates, can you hear me? I see somebody's on mute still. Not hearing.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, hello. You're very quiet. Can I get you to turn up your volume?
Can you hear me better now?
A little bit, but yes. Oh, good. Here we are. So, Stephanie, if you'd like to introduce the subject this afternoon.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay now? I just want to make sure.
It is still quite quiet. So
okay, let me just see if I can turn this up here.
Can you test it again?
Is that better?
A little bit better. We're just going to listen very carefully.
Okay, thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. I apologize too. I'm just getting over a cold, so I'll project my voice as much as I can, but it's a pleasure to be back again today. My name is Stephanie Woods, and I am the program manager with the Coastal Douglas Fir Conservation Partnership. And I'm joined by my colleagues, Dion Buncha with the UBC Botanical Garden and Levi Ostenbrink, who works as a contractor for both of our organizations. And firstly, we'd just like to thank you for the invitation to speak again after our last presentation 1 year ago now in June 2025. Today, we'll be again presenting on the Action for Adaptation Biodiversity Atlas and Policy Toolkit. But this year it is now live and you can find it at the website here on the presentation slide.
Are you planning to show the presentation? Because it's not showing up here.
Oh, it's not showing up. I'm so sorry. It does say I'm sharing my screen. I wonder, Levi, or Dion, do you have it handy? Maybe we'll try sharing it on yours.
That's better. We can see you, but we're still trying to see the actual presentation.
Okay, sorry about that. We'll just see if we can pull it up on on another screen there.
We see. That works great. Thank you.
Oh, you can? Okay, great. So I'm just going to put it into the slide share mode. Is that okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, great. So Stephanie can continue.
Yeah, thanks, Dion. And there's the website there, Action for Adaptation. We can just move to the next slide. So Action for Adaptation is the purpose includes creating a website to support actions for climate adaptation and biodiversity conservation by developing decision-making and policy support tools for local governments and First Nations on BC's southwest coast. So the deliverables of this project included the Biodiversity Atlas itself, which is a single accessible online platform created by researchers and peer reviewed by the province and experts. The policy tools are resources designed to help planners to use the Atlas to advance climate adaptation and biodiversity conservation efforts. And the purpose of our presentation today is to follow up with our introducing this project last year and continue to introduce data-driven biodiversity mapping layers that could support the Sunshine Coast in its policy process. And Action for Adaptation is a collaboration project between the University of British Columbia Botanical Gardens and the Coastal Douglas Fir Conservation Partnership. The partnership is led by a steering committee that is made up of 12 partner agencies, organizations, and land managers, including federal and provincial government, and supported by these working groups focused on different aspects of the CDFCP goals. For today, I'll walk us through a quick background of the project and the process to date. Dion will go through the mapping layers available and highlight some major improvements to the data. And Levi will show us the atlas on the website and do a quick demo of how to use it and walk through the layers. So we did our first presentation at the very beginning of your OCP renewal process. And at that time, we noticed that the two key pillars were housing and climate and environment. And we believe that the A4A mapping could help support these two main pillars, identifying where to locate housing and also understanding climate and environment implications, such as where sensitive ecosystems are, where hotspots for climate microrefugia could be, where old forests still remain, and so on, to help with your prioritization process. It also aligns with your regional growth strategy, community action plan, and green bylaws toolkit. So just a little review, the Biodiversity Atlas Study Area is also the Coastal Douglas Fir Conservation Boundary, and it includes the CDFMM, the Coastal Douglas Fir Moist Maritime Biogeoclimatic Zone, as well as the Coastal Western Hemlock Very Dry Maritime, the CWHXM1 Biogeoclimatic Zone, as well as the Upland Headwaters. So it includes the entire watersheds as well. So where did this project come from? There were workshops held in 2021 to 2023 with planners of local governments and First Nations to identify gaps in planning and policy processes. And this workshop identified that there was a big need for finer scale mapping for local use, updated mapping. There was troubles knowing what mapping is already available and how old it was, what quality it is. That mapping of species and ecosystems at risk is difficult due to the lack of data, and we need to take into consideration climate change, and the validity of the mapping was also questionable. So this led to the 2022-2024 Sunshine Coast mapping pilot, which Dion will get into. But these were the main layers that were identified through those workshops with local governments and First Nations, and are now launched as beta layers on our website. And that the land cover goes to up to 3 meters, so really high resolution. Forest carbon, forest cover is still being refined and loaded. Disturbance, the same thing. Sensitive ecosystems, potential ecosystems at risk, climate microrefugia, and species at risk. Thank you, and I'll now pass it off to Dion.
Hi everyone. So just taking off from Stephanie left off, as you saw, one of the layers, main themes for the mapping was ecosystem mapping. And so we did a pilot on the Sunshine Coast to kind of map out where the sensitive ecosystems are, because what we heard was that the SEI was very outdated, and was also not at a scale that local governments need. And so this mapping was also used by Tilaman First Nation for forest resource planning. and it was incorporated by the SCRD into their natural assets inventory. And we have been collaborating with the BC government mapping teams to kind of get their review at various stages of doing this mapping, and clarifying certain issues with the data, with the provincial data that needed clarification. I'll just walk you through examples of some of the ecosystem mapping that was done. So we started with the Sunshine Coast, and then after, iteration, it's been expanded to the entire study area. So this is a forest cover layer that was developed using LiDAR and satellite imagery. And where there were gaps in the LiDAR, the researcher Louise Marr has used deep learning and modeling to kind of create a forest cover for the entire study area. And that's at 10-meter resolution. And since this just gave like a model, tree height model of the area, we also intersected it with VRI so that you get age of the forest as well. So it gives you height as well as age data for the forest on the landscape. This helps track changes in forest cover over time. It will help with connectivity, corridor mapping, and identification, and can also help prioritize areas for conservation or restoration. Just to give you an example of what the provincial forest mapping shows and what the mapping we have done shows, as you can the image on the left shows the provincial VRI, and then on the right you can see the mapping done by our team. And as you can see, it's at a much finer resolution and has also been updated to show areas that have been deforested since then. So this just gives you a sense of the kind of improvements that have been made to existing mapping to try and help planners get more up to date and better resolution mapping. Similarly, with the sensitive ecosystems mapping, this is an example from the Sunshine Coast. So most of the provincial mapping of sensitive ecosystems was confined to along the coastline, and it was from 2005. So using various data sets, our team has been able to cover the entire study area. And of course, this includes the entire SCRD. And so you can see how many more sensitive ecosystems have been revealed throughout the area. Whereas if you were to rely on the provincial SCI, it would show nothing above the coastal areas and could be quite misleading. So similarly, this is just a closer look at the SCI mapping at a particular area, and you can see how much more different it is compared to the provincial mapping. This reveals way more. There's been a lot of mapping of riparian areas also been done using various sources to reveal way more than what the provincial mapping shows. And similarly, for ecosystems at risk, as you can see, the provincial mapping shows 19 out of 95 possible at-risk ecosystems in the SCRD, and they're all confined to the coastal areas. But the image on the right shows how many more exist throughout the SCRD, and we were able to kind of reveal 59 of 95 possible at-risk ecosystems. Accompanying the atlas is also a policy toolkit, and the whole idea is to help mappers link the mapping to policy and to be able to identify various policies that you can use to protect these areas. This came out of a need again from mappers who said that, they felt that the local governments didn't have much power or policy to kind of protect natural areas, but we have kind of revealed several more policies and creative ways that planners can kind of help protect the natural areas that are important. So this is just an example. We kind of took each of the mapping layers and helped for each kind of policy that a local government might have. For example, this is policy language for I think it's for regional growth strategies. So it gives you, you know, policy language that you can use in your various policies based on things that have already been used by other municipal areas. Like, for example, here it's the city of Courtney. Sorry, this is for an OCP. And so it also gives you targets that you can include in your OCP. And similarly, there's also a similar table for regional growth strategies. So since many planners felt they didn't know what legal language could be used, we've tried to help provide examples. And now I'm going to hand it over to Levi, who will run you through a demo of the atlas.
Great. Hello, everyone. Let me know if you can't see the screen. So I'm going to be presenting the Biodiversity Atlas, which is an interactive interface where users can interact with the data sets that our contractors have created, in addition to other data sets that we've sourced from external sources and you will see today. So I'm going to present two general kind of aspects of the Atlas. First being its general functionality and its tools, in addition to actually diving into some of the data. So it's live and available, as Stephanie mentioned, on the website. So I invite anyone to come back and look at this biodiversity atlas in the future. There's a bit of a tutorial in the left pane here, which you can take a look at so you can better understand some of the tools and widgets within. So today I'll close that and we can dive right into the data. So as you can see here is our study area. As mentioned, today we'll just look at a closer area in the Half Moon Bay and the Seychelles region. And so in our biodiversity atlas, we have many reference layers. And so this includes parcel areas, this includes land ownership, crown tenures, First Nation boundaries, local government boundaries, and then also forest management restrictions and natural resource districts. And so these reference layers can be used with our other sensitive ecosystems and that microrefugia data. In addition, we have parks and conservation areas. And so you can see those here and in the legend on the right, and how they're indicated. We also have a land cover data set. And so this is at a 3-meter resolution. Past products of land cover were more coarser resolution, such as 20 meters or 30 meters. Esri has also created a 10-meter resolution land cover. And so you can see that here on the map. It's pretty good resolution, however, it's outdated. And so you can see how our land cover is much finer resolution, much more specific in land cover for the whole study area. We're also in development of a disturbance theme, which is going to incorporate roads, infrastructure and industry, forest disturbance, urban and agricultural areas. The same contractor who developed our land cover data set developed a forest carbon data set. So this is at 15-meter resolution. It maps the carbon storage in kilograms of carbon per hectare. And so this indicates areas where carbon stocks are high and correlates with old growth and other dense vegetation. We've also developed a forest cover theme. And so here you can see our canopy heights model, which incorporates LiDAR data as well. And so this is at 10-meter resolution and really indicates the stand height of forests. So you can see by darker colors on the map, indicates the higher stand height for forests. And then white is short forests. We've also aggregated some of that canopy height data into polygons. And so here you can see where the darker colors are forest stands of polar median tree heights. And then lighter colors like yellow is actually shorter trees. And so darker colors can therefore be indicative of old growth and ancient forests. In addition to forest cover, as mentioned, we have our sensitive ecosystems. And so you can see that here. This incorporates external data sets, such as those from the Freshwater Atlas from the government of BC and wetlands, And then also mapping that we've developed through our terrestrial and sensitive ecosystem mapping, as Dion presented, which proceeds for not as greater extent and as thorough. So this incorporates many different external data sets aggregated into one. And so you can see that here as well in the map through riparian and forested wetlands and riparian wetland mixed areas. In addition, we also have within that, we have riparian forests. So you can see that here, and that indicates the forest heights within riparian areas, which I'll come back to in our climate microrefugia. So you can see, look at that now. And so climate microrefugia has also been mapped in this theme. Ultimately, these are areas that provide species with ecosystems that are more resilient to a changing climate. So here you can see the climate microrefugia as well, which includes moist forests. I'll turn off some other data sets so we can take a closer look. And then that's all been mapped for the whole study area as well. In addition to climate microrefugia, we also have our ecosystems at risk mapped. So this includes data from the Conservation Data Center of BC, which you can see here by the hatched areas. And then also we've extracted potential ecological communities at risk from our terrestrial and sensitive ecosystem mapping. So you can see that here, again, that includes red listed and blue listed species, in addition to red and or blue listed species. In the map, those are all present. And I will just note at this time that all the data within our atlas is interactive. And so a user can click polygons and a pop-up window will provide much more thorough information on that given feature, including all the data within, layer summary and use, applications, so how this data can be applied, and then a bit of background behind the data, including a disclaimer, and then metadata and source information as well. So lastly, in addition to ecosystems at risk, we've also mapped species at risk. And so here are a lot of point locations, in addition from the GBIF records, in addition to the Conservation Data Center. And so these are critical areas, as these are red and blue listed species where they've been observed in the past. So there's a lot of data here as I've presented. There's more even, and I invite you, to come take a look in the future and explore the atlas and some of the functionalities and tools, including looking at attribute tables so you can see the data in more detail, adding your own data. And then there's also a tool here called Prints where you can print the whole interface and the data that you've turned on within. So you can generate a map of sorts, which would be static, but at least in PDF form on your system. So anyways, thanks for taking a look. And as Stephanie mentioned, this is a beta version, so we're just loading in some last layers, but I invite you to take a look at it in the meantime.
Thank you very much. Do you have any concluding statements, or does the board have any questions of the presenters? Director McMahon.
Yeah, my question is just, how will this information be updated over the course of time?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I can answer that. So we've developed, we've all these models creating land cover and carbon storage in a given time. And so with new LiDAR data that's going to extend to new areas, these data sets can be updated in the future. But as of right now, they're going to live on the atlas in its current state. We also have some future data sets that are going to come onto the atlas. And then there's also unplanned data sets that we're going to receive by request that can come on as well. Also might include landscape connectivity and more.
Thank you. Any other? Director Gabias.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And thank you to the delegation for showing us the final product. It is incredible and it's really beautiful. I understand why people get really nerdy about maps. They're so wonderful. I have a question. Thank you for doing that work in the policy toolkit also for local governments. That is so helpful. I'm wondering, do you also interface with the provincial government or federal government about this? Because a lot of the mapping also is on Crown land. Understanding that you're this for First Nations as well, but how do you interface with the province and the federal government?
Who would like to answer that?
We've been consulting provincial staff at various departments while creating the mapping, and getting feedback, having them peer review it. In fact, one of the provincial employees has even helped in creating the disturbance mapping that we're doing right now. They've been involved in our workshops as well, so they're very familiar with what we are doing, both from the walrus ministry as well as for the forest ministry. And several people from the province are actually on the board of the CDFCP, so we have their guidance on a regular basis in that way too. In fact, the founder of the CDFCP works for the province, so we're very well connected with the province and they're aware of the work that we're doing.
And I can add on the federal government level, ECCC, Environment and Climate Change Canada, is one of our major funders of the project, and they also have a member on our steering committee. So they're regularly involved in this work. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have a question. There's several other mapping atlases out there, including the Marine Stewardship Initiative, Marine Reference Guide for Howe Sound. And there's another one for Bowen. I think the David Suzuki Foundation has put out a story mapping atlas. Do you see ways that communities and planning can work with these various atlases together? Is there any concept of connectivity between these different tools?
Yeah, I think the Marine Atlas is more coastal, whereas we're covering a wider area. And definitely people can look at various tools and choose what best suits their purpose. And we have been in touch with the people from Howe Sound Biosphere Reserve, who've also provided various inputs into our mapping, helped us with the community science project that we did as well. So we have been in close touch with them, and they've also been working with planners on they've created a connective, which is still in a beta stage, a connectivity mapping tool for planners in the sea to sky area. So we are in touch with them and aware of their work. And a big reason why we haven't worked on connectivity is because there are people like the Sea to Sky who are doing this work, and the province is also doing provincial mapping. So yeah, we're trying to make sure we don't overlap, and the public has access to various different aspects of mapping.
Thank you. I don't see any more questions from the directors. So on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank you for the presentation. Very informative, and I know a number of people in our community will be excited to dig into all the data you've got there. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
Take care.
Okay, so our next item, 4.1, is a development variance permit for DVP 00121, which is 1034 Marine Drive in Electoral Area F. And that starts on page 23, and we have some staff here to introduce it. Who would like to introduce it? Planning Technician Lamb, if you'd like to open this, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this development variance permit application is to reduce the minimum setback from the natural boundary of the ocean from 15 meters to 1.78 meters to allow for completion of a partially constructed residential auxiliary storage building and deck. An earlier auxiliary building, located within approximately the same footprint, was demolished in 2024. Construction of the new structure was commenced without permits and halted by a stop work order issued by SCRD in September of 2024. Staff have evaluated the application based on the board's DVP policy and recommend denial of the permit, given the significant departure from bylaw and provincial standards, potential impacts to public enjoyment of the natural shoreline, and the potential precedent that approval of the variance may set. Staff are available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a script that that we start all our DVPs with. So I'm just going to read it out, and then we'll have opportunities for board members to ask questions. Having heard the staff's introduction of the proposed development variance permit, if there is anyone in the webinar audience or in the boardroom wishing to speak to the application, we ask that you raise your hand. If attending virtually, please use the raise hand tool or *6, and you will be unmuted. When you speak, please give your full name and, if you wish, your address for the record. In order to keep our meeting moving, we ask that you please keep your comments focused and limit them to 3 minutes. Once the committee has heard from all those wishing to speak, we will proceed with questions and a motion and discussion towards a recommendation to the board. So is there anyone? I'm going to start in the gallery right now. So if there's anyone who'd like to speak, yes, if you'd like to come forward to the microphone and just state your name and general location.
I understand that it doesn't meet the bylaws and it doesn't meet any of those issues. We have talked to a QEP who's assured us that we can make the area better because right now it's full of brambles and other things. So that's part of the application. I know there's a deck there that's proposed, and the client is amenable to removing that if they can get the boathouse portion of it. So I'm just here to answer any questions or speak to their needs.
Thank you very much. So we'll see if there's anybody else wishing to speak, and then if the opportunity arises, we may be having questions of clarification. Is there anybody else in the virtual gallery?
Chair, there is someone in the virtual gallery. However, they've not raised their hands. We were contacted earlier.
I'll just make sure that anybody in the virtual gallery on Zoom, if you'd like to speak, please raise your virtual hand. So we're not seeing anything right now. If at any time you can raise your hand, we'll try and get you in to speak. So, board members, any questions or comments about this particular file? So I'm going to start with Director Lee and then go that way. Go ahead.
I'm curious what the proposed building was actually going to be used for. It seems if it's storage, it's a long way from the main house, so kind of curious what the building is for.
I'm not sure if that's outlined in the report. Who would best, I guess, the opportunity for their proponent to speak to it?
Okay, thank you. So they have a family. So they have, I can't remember how many kids, but they have quite a few kids, and they have friends. And so that's that's going to be storage for the beach and any safety equipment and balls and those kinds of things for beach use.
Thank you. Does that answer it? Yeah. Director Bax, you had a question?
Yeah, it seems like an unfortunate way of going about this, that if they had maintained the original building and just renovated it, I don't think they'd be in the same position. But I don't see any other way around it at the moment. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
And Director McMahon?
This is more of a process question. So if the owners were going to drop the deck, right, or not proceed with the deck, then would they need to either amend this application or come up with a new application? What happens when this application is turned down? Can they make another application? How does this work?
Staff?
Yep, thank you for the question. They'd obviously have to amend the plans to reflect what it is they're actually proposing. I guess one option would be for you to defer the application back to staff so we could work with the applicant on an amended design.
Can you just clarify, does that direction come from the board, or is it something that comes separately from the proponent?
It could be a resolution that comes from you, potentially, in directing staff to go back and work with the applicant on an amended proposal. Obviously, the applicant stated today, and that's really the first time we've heard that they would be open to removing the deck component. So we'd certainly be open to working with the applicant on an amended proposal.
Director McMahon, follow up.
Yeah, I'm looking at the options here, and well, obviously you're the area director. So referring back to staff is one option. Referring to the APC is another option, because that would provide the opportunity for a more in-depth discussion than we're going to have here right now. So actually, I'm going to ask the Area F director what she thinks about this.
I do recognize as a representative of this community that often these kind of things happen. And then there are small properties in this area. I also see that we implemented 15-meter setback for the ocean for a reason. And there are different types of allowances when you work with the development variance permit. I'm going to follow the recommendations of the staff report, primarily because there is options to move this type of storage unit and deck within a 0.5, I think it's 0.5 hectare area of the property, that there are options to place this type of accessory building somewhere else on the property. So I think for those reasons, and given that we have implemented the 15-meter setback, this is fairly deep into the setback. In fact, it's most of it. It only leaves 1.78 meters from the setback from the ocean. I think that this is worth the proponent looking at again and seeing what other options they have. So I am going to move the recommendation as presented on page 23. I have a seconder. Is there any other comments or questions? Go ahead, Director Bax.
You know, I think given the climate crisis that we're under, and after looking at the pictures of the building and knowing the history of that area as far as king tides, etc., I think we may be doing the proponent a favor by denying this.
I don't see any other hands, so I'd like to call a vote. All those in favor? And that passes. Thank you. So our next item is 4.2. It's a fee reduction request for PRE 00316. And that starts on page 41. And who would like to introduce this? Okay, thanks.
The purpose of this report is to bring forward an applicant request to reduce application fees by 50% in accordance with Bylaw 522 for a pre-application and development permit for One Straw Society. Staff are happy to answer any questions.
Directors, any questions or comments? Do we have anyone that's interested in speaking to this? Do we have anyone in the gallery? I don't see anybody. Anybody on the virtual meeting like to speak to this? Okay, I see no hands. Okay, Director Bax.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very pleased with this, with how this has been presented to us, and I know that the One Straw Society is out there fighting the good fight for food security, and I would like to move recommendations that appear on page 41, option 1, the 50% reduction, which is the highest that we are allowed to give.
Do I have a seconder? I have a seconder, Director Gabius. Any other comments? I see none. Calling the vote, all those in favor? And that passes there. Thank you very much. Our next item on page 45 is 4.3, recreation sites and trails with the BCR, STBC, and Sunshine Coast Regional District. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. No report introduction today, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yes, Director McMahon.
Yeah, I think this question arose during agenda review. My question is, why a 2-year term? Like, why aren't these terms longer? Because 2 years isn't very long.
Go ahead, thanks.
Yes, thank you for the question. As outlined in this report, RSTBC is anticipating having additional capacity in 2028 to work directly with community groups and engage with them directly for partnership agreements. So the term of this agreement aligns with that anticipated additional capacity at RSTBC. Thank you.
A follow-up?
So we would no longer be the middleman? We could get out of the middle? Is that what we're talking about?
Go ahead.
Thank you for the question. Yet to be determined. I think with that extra 2 years of time here, it allows us some time to work with the community groups in RSTBC to see what works for everyone moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have anyone interested in moving the recommendation? Go ahead, Director McMahon.
Sure, I'll move the recommendation on page 45.
That's moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you, that passes. Thanks very much. Okay, next we're looking at 4.4, partnership agreement renewal with Half Moon Bay Community Association, starting on page 49. And whenever you're ready, you can introduce this. Thank you.
Good afternoon. There's no introduction for this report at this time, but staff are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from anybody? Anybody like to move the recommendation? Director Gabias?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And with a lot of gratitude to the Half Moon Bay Community Association and the volunteers who do amazing work in Half Moon Bay. If you haven't been on the trails, I recommend you do. They're so dedicated and incredible. We're so lucky to have them. So I'm happy to move the recommendations on page 49.
And Director McMahon seconds. Oh, you have a comment too? Yes.
Yes, I'd just like to say some positive things too about the CMBTA, the Coast Mountain Bike Trail Association, who maintains sprockets. They do a really good job. I appreciate it. I'm in there quite regularly. So these community partnerships bring a lot of value to our park system, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you. If we're all ready to pass the recommendation, all those in favor? And that passes. Thank you. Our next item is on page 52. It's community-led improvement project application for the heat pump in the Harbor Gallery and Pender Harbor Ranger Station. And it's the same staff. So go ahead if you have any details you'd like to highlight.
No introduction for this report as well this afternoon. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Director Lee? No. Director McMahon? Go ahead.
Yeah, just a comment while Director Lee prepares himself there. I was in this building on a very hot day the other summer. They need a heat pump. Just gonna say they really need this. Good project.
Go ahead, Director Lee.
Yes, I was just actually pausing in case anybody had some comments about the gallery. It's a great little place. It's a very, very much a great asset for our community. And I'd like to make a motion to accept the recommendations as made on page 52.
And we have a seconder, and no more comments or questions. All those in favor? And that passes. Thank you very much. Our next item is 4.6, starting on page 57, update on collaboration with the Sunshine Coast Community Forest regarding the zigzag bridge replacement. Manager Huntington, would you like to introduce us?
Thank you. Same brief response. The report is for information, fairly self-explanatory, and here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
So this is for information, so comments are welcome, but there's no decision here. Go ahead, Director Bax.
Although it is for information, I noticed that within the body of the report that there is, at the moment, the community forest does not have capacity to create a proposal for the replacement of the zigzag bridge. And so in order to make sure that there's going to be discussion and money in the 2027 budget for this, I would move that we prepare a placeholder for the zigzag bridge replacement project within the 2027 budget discussions.
Director McMahon?
Yeah, further to that, it's the sentence at the bottom of page 57 says, unless directed otherwise, staff will not be bringing forward a 2027 budget proposal. It looks like anecdotally, the community forest may be able to come up with a proposal. So we would like to make sure that is possible.
So we have a motion. Do we have a seconder?
Sure.
Yes, we got a seconder. Any other comments? And we're clear on the motion. Director Lee?
Yes, I'm all in favor of this. They've done great work for us, and I'm sure if it's at all within their means, they'll carry on. So I think we need to leave that open for that possibility.
Okay. Hearing nothing further, I'd like to call a vote. All in favor? And that passes. Thank you very much. Yes, Director Gabias.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just want to make a comment to thank staff for working with all these groups on the coast. It's so wonderful to see there's multiple items on the agenda today that are partnerships with not-for-profits, volunteer groups and such. So very appreciated. Thanks.
And they're moving along at a fair clip, which is really exciting too. Yeah, it's great. Thank you. So our next item is 4.7, page 59, Cliff Gilker Bridge Trail Remediation Project Update. And whenever you're ready, staff.
Oops. Thank you very much. Staff's here to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions of staff? No? No? Director Bax?
I've seen some of the pictures. I haven't had the time to go down to see the site yet, but it was only in the last week, I believe, that the first span has been launched across the. I would have loved to have been there to see the actual laying of the first span. I don't imagine it was done. There was probably an awful lot of engineering and physics that went into that. I wonder, is there anyone here that was at that construction?
Go ahead.
Any staff there?
I wasn't on site during the actual transfer across the channel, but all the pre-work was done by a significant amount of cantilevers and pulleys, and it did look like quite an elaborate operation for sure.
Thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead, Director McMahon.
No, also really happy to see this going forward. I see the little caveat that procurement capacity might, delay this. I hope that doesn't happen. Even though, I'm not in Area D, I certainly heard a lot of comments over the last few years about, the trails and bridges and Cliff Gilker. It's a regional destination park. A lot of people really like it. So I'm glad to see this moving forward. And this is a very straightforward, informative report. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, staff. That's great. Oh, sorry. I didn't see you. Director Lee.
I just wanted to congratulate staff on the report and keeping us current on this project. It's very comforting, and it's a great project, so I love to hear about it. So thank you.
Does anyone need a very short break? Water? Yeah, well, let's get a couple breaks because we're into the deep weeds now. And we're now on to our number 4.8, starting on page 62, which is the OCP drafting mandate decisions. And our planners have a presentation for us. Thank you.
Good afternoon. SCRD's OCP renewal project is on time and on budget to deliver the scope that the board directed, with a scheduled finish at the end of 2027. The OCP and companion zoning bylaw set out the vision, objectives, policies, and regulations to guide SCRD land use needs toward the year 2047, or a minimum of 20 years forward. As planned, this moment in the project marks the transition from high-level visioning to specifics. At this stage, the board is being asked to provide high-level direction that will guide the drafting process. With your direction, the project team will have what is needed to begin drafting the contents of the OCP, which will be tested through a third round of engagement. The board provided scope direction to integrate all existing OCPs. This tells us that the existing objectives and policies will be considered for integration in the new OCP. The board's direction also included a focus on 2 pillars, housing and climate and environment. The work in progress objectives on your agenda today have been created using board direction, community feedback, and results of many technical studies received by the board to date. If approved, they direct the focus for drafting the corresponding policies for the pillars and provide a lens for drafting objectives and policies throughout the OCP. While not a pillar, transportation objectives have been included because of their relationship to both pillars. The pillar objectives are the decision-making focus of this report. Objectives within an OCP are expressions of intent, not explicit commitments to action. However, under the Local Government Act, local governments cannot pass bylaws or undertake works that are inconsistent with OCPs. With careful drafting, it is possible to create objectives that speak to our role in areas that are outside of SCRD service areas. For example, we can coordinate with, advocate to, or facilitate conditions that support action by other governments or agencies. This is our opportunity to check in about the direction you are looking for related to the 2 pillars, as well as some adjacent direction about transportation. The work in progress objectives are listed as the recommendations in your agenda on page 62 and 63. The summary level information about each objective is included in the attachments, which has been reviewed against the board's scope as an extra support to decision-making if you wish to have it as a reference. With your direction on these objectives, the project team can begin developing a draft, bringing all the pieces together to see how they interact. The objectives are each a work in progress. The focus of your consideration is, are these the overall directions to pursue? The wording is highly likely to change along the way as we learn and research more. As you know, the work in progress objectives were considered last week by APCs, and the minutes from those meetings are included on today's agenda. If the board directs it, the project team can consider APC comments, as well as comments that may come from further discussion at July meetings. Those will be considered during the drafting phase. Next up is 180 to 200 days of drafting for the project team, and that is guided by decisions associated with today's report and the upcoming report in July. Staff are very pleased to bring you the summary of work at a key milestone in the project and are here to answer any questions you may have about the decisions before you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Steph. And I would like to commend you on this huge compendium of work to date. I think we are beginning to see what this may look like as we examine these objectives. So yeah, this is a huge amount of work. Directors, questions? I know there's a lot of recommendations here, so I don't know how to approach this, but let's get some questions of clarity first, and then we'll go from there. Director Bax.
Yeah, there's a ton of work. One of the most interesting things that I found about this report is some of the one-pagers on the different options that show up. There's how many objective? What is that? 8? No, 5. So we've got 8 housing objectives, 6 climate objectives, and 5 transit objectives. And at the end of each one, there is what was explained to me is a filter on how they were going to see if it was a doable recommendation within the OCP renewal project. And so within the housing, there's recommendations 1 to 5. They pass what I think they pass this filter as something that can go forward. But then we get to number 6. They begin on page 76. And number 6, 7, and 8, they have the last 2 parts of the explanation as to whether the objective would require additional effort beyond the OCP timelines and implementation. And it says yes. And will implementing the proposal require additional resources above and beyond regular staff time? And it says yes. And so those 2 things, I think we're at the point in this process where we're going to need staff to explain to us the ramifications of these particular points. When it says yes, I know that it was explained to me, and it's probably in all these documents as well, but of these 8 and 6 and 5, 21, or sorry, was it 18 recommendations, that there's a number of them that I will need to hear from staff what the ramifications of the extra time or money or whatever it is. I know that it was explained to me that some of it is really quite a small investment by the SCRD to see these parts of the project move forward and to be included in the OCP when it's in its final form. But some of them are they have a little more of a footprint. And so I'm gonna need staff to point those things out to me.
Staff, can you?
Not today.
Oh, not today. Okay. But staff, do you have a comment response to, because this has come up a couple of times, as to where we go with those extra bigger pieces that aren't currently in the scope?
Sure. Thank you for the question. I'll just speak broadly to all of them in that the OCP is intended to include an implementation plan. So things that are beyond the things that can be handled immediately in the OCP would likely be proposed to go into the implementation plan. As part of that, that might signal some future projects in some cases. What those projects are and the scope of those projects would be at the board's discretion in the future. They may come in the form of budget proposals. They may also come in the form of ask for partnerships with other agencies or governments to help achieve those OCP goals. So they are different depending on the circumstances of each one, but that's the broad thinking. It's just signaling that there might be a little bit more to actually implement those on the ground. Thank you.
And I'm just going to do a quick follow-up. Who is going to keep track of those? So as we move into potentially a different board in the next year, how do we know that they're not going to get lost in the translation?
Thank you for the question. So being in the implementation plan, they would live in the OCP, so they would be there. That would be the board's decision. As what is included in the implementation plan is something that is work that we're saying should be looked at in the future. It could include prioritizations. We could look at how that's done, but there's various mechanisms to track how we do them and what the priorities are for them so that we don't lose track of them. Thanks.
Does that help answer, Director Bax?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm just curious about there's 12 recommendations that I will need more information on as to, but there's 7 that I see that seem to pass the filter onto the next phase. And so it's those 12 that I'm just wondering about.
But has this answered that they're not going to be lost? Okay.
It's going to be in the implementation plan. And so, yeah, I know we're still a long way from the finish line.
Director McMahon.
Yeah, in general, I think we're, heading in the right direction here. I struggled a lot with the language for these objectives because I understand that when we get to the actual OCP, the language is going to get somewhat technical, despite our efforts perhaps to be plain language, but it is like a bylaw. So there's stuff that has to be pretty technical. But I really struggled with the language on the objectives here because I think that we need to be very clear so that the public can read these objectives and understand what they mean. And so I have quite a few comments on the different objectives. I don't want to start wordsmithing them right here and now in the meeting, but I was hoping that staff could take them back. I'm going to move through and do a couple, and then maybe we can take turns here. But one thing that I don't see kind of reflected in any of the housing objectives is recognizing the unique character of some of our neighborhoods. We have some very special, unique, funky, whatever you want to call them. I don't think we can say funky in an OCP. But we have special neighborhoods, and that is a theme that has come through in the public feedback. We need to recognize that character, at least. We may not want to maybe defend it to the death because standards may have changed. There may be many reasons, but a starting point is to recognize these special places. Objective A on page 62 looks perfectly straightforward. Objective B says more diverse forms of housing in hubs. And I scratch my head because I thought we were hoping to facilitate gentle density through our residential areas. And lots of my residential areas do not look like hubs to me. So how do we say gentle density, right? It's not just in hubs that people put in, say, basement suites or auxiliary dwellings. It's important, I think, everywhere. I'll do one more and then we can sort of move on. E says maintain historic densities. Can we find a word other than historic that seems very dinosaur somehow? I think what we're getting at here is to have lower densities in other areas, especially areas that are outside of established water, sewer, or fire service areas. That's a lot of the crux that the lower densities, you can't support high densities in unserviced areas. Yeah, I'll stop for a minute and see if other people have comments.
Director Lee.
Thank you, Chair. I did some wordsmithing, but I don't know that it's really necessarily apparent here. As Director Back said, perhaps we need to look at this another time before we actually launch. But anyways, here I'll share my 2 bits worth. On 1B, as Director McMahon pointed out, it's not just in developing community hubs. So all I did to fix it out was rub out the in developing community hubs because we need it everywhere and we need it for the smooths and we want to go beyond the smooths and I want to go beyond 1 hectare for a second house. Holy cow. So I don't know if this is the appropriate place, but I think it is, and I think we need our communities to understand. So that's my 2 bits.
Just to jump in, is if there's simple changes to the current recommendations, like just take that section, then we can amend them and pass what we can. Maybe that's an approach. And then others that you feel need a lot more work, we can go from there, because we don't want to prevent any work from happening over a set period of time when we've got some objectives that we are happy with and we want to see move forward. Does that make sense?
Okay, would you like me to make a motion to that, or should we do it later after everybody's
So there's
talked?
nothing on the table yet, and we could make the changes and then do it as a motion altogether, but we could do it recommendation 1 and go from there. But I'm open to any other ideas from directors. Director Gavies?
Sorry, it's not necessarily ideas, but there's been so many interesting conversations. The Half Moon Bay APC has been great. They've been meeting more than once because it's so there's so much material there to talk about, and I think it's starting to like becoming less fuzzy. I think it was very broad in engagement number 1, and then we're starting to really like get to the more real on the ground thing. And I think there's a lot of conversations now that are bubbling up that haven't before because of that. And I'm thinking specifically about community hubs. What does that mean? What do people see that as? Why is there resistance to community hubs? Why is there resistance to complete compact communities? Is it because we're not painting the picture? Is it because there's like everybody has a different interpretation? Is it because there's different neighborhoods and different needs in all the neighborhoods? And so like to me, and I hate doing that, but I would love to have a bit more time with my residents to have those kind of philosophical, like, you know, what do we want to look like? What do we want this place, like the neighborhood, like the Truman Road neighborhood to look like in 20 years? What do we want Welcome Woods to look like in 20 years? Because we all have very different demographics and needs and amenities. So I would love to, and if staff really needs to get going on this, I think it's broad enough that we could, you know, pass something today, but with the caveat that maybe in July, we can revisit with the other discussions that we have in the next month, because I'm revved up. I want to talk to everybody about this. Thanks.
So I'll just jump here briefly. These are objectives, they're not the actual language to go in. So that I noticed was a difficulty with a Area F APC was, this is language. And it's not. So part of this would be, how do we make that part clear so that you can still have those discussions? Whereas the overall objects include those discussions. It's my understanding, but that specific language is not there yet. And I think staff alluded to that. So without feeling that we're directing and losing in the process, how do we move this forward, or move even parts of it forward to allow for work to be done, and then also allow for those very important conversations? So Director Lee and Director Bax.
Thank you, Chair. I also did a little bit of fiddling with 1E, which is maintain historic densities away from the hubs. I like to recognize the existing residential densities established by historical development patterns of rural areas far from community hubs, and prioritize, and I rubbed out the lower and put gently increased densities in these areas. The reason being, I don't want to go backwards, I want more. I think half-acre lots are a pretty good thing. And You know, I think we can actually make them with changes to the septic system, which I believe is possible. And so I don't want to eliminate those right now.
Yeah, please do. Thank you, Director McMahon.
Yeah,
And I'll
I'm just
get back to
thinking
you.
about process here. There's a lot of material, but I thought perhaps we could try and get our heads around the housing material first.
Yep.
Get that kind of dealt with, raise all of the issues that we have, and then maybe staff can also help us work out what are the most appropriate next steps. I don't think there's anything here that we're taking major objection to. I think we're trying to clarify and focus in some cases, and maybe add a couple of dimensions that I think are missing from the housing picture. Is that good?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how to actually get it through in terms of what are we getting through. So I'm just going to go to, Manager Hall.
Thank you, Chair. Just if it assists the committee, I'm hearing that a number of the questions that you're grappling with have a spatial dimension, and the title of this report is part 1 of 2. The second package of information that staff are planning for July are the spatial factors, so an organizing framework around land use types, development permit areas, other spatial factors. And just a reminder that that is coming and is part of why these objectives are not spatialized at this point. Thank you.
Does that help at all? Yep. Anyway, Director Baxon will come back to you.
Yeah, so it does, it is, I mean, this is still in the draft, and we just want to give staff the go-ahead to continue the work at this point. But there was brought up by both Director McMahon and Director Lee, particularly the Section E, maintain historic densities away from hubs, and that also aligns with draft housing objective number 5. And it's the prioritized lower densities within this area that is, I question. It's because the fact that there are naturally occurring neighborhoods sometimes that happen, and I think this is where these densities occur. It happens within sometimes within age groups that you get a community of more elderly people, that it's a naturally occurring thing. And I'm not sure if discouraging more density within an area that, I know the understanding is that there's no, it's away from the hub, it's away from infrastructure, et cetera. And so we do want to discourage development that's too far from our water system or our highways or our bus routes. But I'm having trouble, justifying the two things, is that there's a naturally occurring density, and then we want to try to discourage that. And so I'm not exactly sure how I can justify the wording in this.
I'm wondering if staff would like to speak to the intent of E, and I think there's opportunities for us to edit, because I didn't read it that way. So anyway, I'd like to hear back from them.
Thanks for the questions, and good questions. I might speak a little bit to B and E just because I think that they actually play off of each other better, or that was at least the intent of staff. And despite our best efforts, perhaps there could be a little more clarity added to the wording. So when we talk about community hubs in B, really we're talking about areas where we know that there is sort of existing services that are there. And most specifically, that often relates to things like infrastructure in the ground, but it might also relate to transit and community halls and parks and other things like that. And commercial spaces, absolutely. We're under E when we're talking about the lower densities. I heard a good recommendation there that maybe what we're actually trying to say is gentle increases to those densities. So it's not about stopping new growth, but it's about ensuring that that historic pattern is maintained, that we're looking to do gentle increases in density as appropriate with the level of servicing in those areas, versus in B with the community hubs. Those are areas where we see opportunities might exist to be explored where we could look at other forms of housing that help better meet some of our core housing needs. Hope that answers the question. Thank you.
So I think part of this is us defining those specific areas in the recommendation so that we're comfortable with that and clear with that kind of communication. And that's where I'm not sure how to make that happen. But Director Lee, and then we'll see if we can get something on the table in terms of.
Chair, I was going to suggest that we just plain start from the top, and I'd be happy to make a motion for 1A as is, for instance. I like that. And if we vote on it and put it to bed, then that one's done. And then I've already made a suggestion for 1B. We could do that next and vote on it. Is that a good way to go forward?
Yeah, I think
we will focus the
kind of
discussion.
We've gone around, we've got some ideas. Director McMahon has further edits. But would that process work with directors? We can do it that way and at least get some stuff going. Okay. So who would like to move Objective A under OCP drafting mandate for housing? Director Lee, seconded by Director McMahon. Any questions on that one? Nope. All those in favor? So A passes. How would we like to look at B, diverse housing? Director McMahon.
I'll move it as suggested with the omission of the in developing community hubs. Just say facilitate more diverse forms of housing through updated land use designations and regulations.
Do you have that? Okay. Yeah. Got a seconder? And do you want to comment, Director Bax?
No.
Okay. It does, yeah. Okay, and again, these are objectives. These are not actual, this is not actually what's going into the OCP specifically, so. Yep.
Did we want to add including developing community hubs? Oh, that's C. Aha, nice catch. Thank you.
So we're clear on what we're voting on? Yep. Okay, all those in favor? And that passes. So now we're on to C, foster community hubs. Any edits, Director Bax?
I'd like to move it as it stands.
Okay, we don't have a seconder yet because I'd like Director McMahon, you wanted to.
We need to do something going forward to help people understand what a community hub is supposed to be. Because that's, I think, reading the APC minutes, that was a real struggling point for several of the APCs. Like when staff says community hub, I think of the heart of the creek, right? But I think what they also mean is maybe Chester Road, where the fire hall and the school is. I do not think of that as a hub, and I don't think most of the people in my area would think of that as a hub. So we're struggling a little with defining what we mean here. But you know, I'm willing to take a leap of faith and just approve C to get us moving.
Director Gabias.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. We're talking about housing and community hubs, but we're not talking about commercial or amenities or like, is there, like to me, that's a community hub is more than density. It's also amenities, it's small businesses, it's, you know, so is there, I know we're not, the economic development is not a pillar, but is there a way to integrate that within the community hub? Question to the directors, I guess.
So it's a question of staff, but it also sounds like we're although we're focused on housing, we're recognizing that community hubs are more than housing, and how is that going to be communicated and expressed in the OCP? And one of the questions that we had with the Area F APC is, yeah, where is the economics? And how do we sort of allow that lens to flow through the official community plan as a whole? Because in the end, it's livability, and livability implies, you know, a grace of economic development to a certain extent. So those are the questions, but I'm wondering if there's also an opportunity for a definition page, which can take us down a different rabbit hole, but it might be a way of clarifying this. So if staff would like to comment.
Thanks for the question. So the intent of the scope is to bring forward the existing policies and the existing OCPs where there does exist in some of the OCPs, but not all, and they're not all done in the same manner, but an integrated form of those existing policies related to economy, industrial, and commercial type uses, as well as other uses like parks and recreation. So as far as integration goes, that's how that would work. The housing pillar would support those. So by saying the housing in those areas, it would relate to those other commercial activities, for example, that do exist within the hubs. In terms of definitions, I would say that OCPs are often not something that has a full terms of reference in the back, but we can certainly take that suggestion away in terms of making sure that the writing is clear about what we're talking about in the document. Thank you.
So if that answers that, I think we were looking at C. We're only at C. But was it seconded? I don't think. Okay. So if there's no other questions, recommendation C, all in favor. And that passes. Okay. And we are capturing the comments. I think that's important to make sure, because this is where it's all coming from. D, Director McMahon.
Yeah, I'd just like to move D. Obviously, we want to improve our process.
Yeah. All's in favor? And that passes. E, historic densities. How would we like to approach that one? Director McMahon.
This is why I didn't want to be amending these on the fly. I think that the wording here, I know what we're getting at, but I don't think we're there. So I'm not quite sure how to deal with that one in this instance.
Director Bax, do you have anything to help us along?
Well, I was thinking to strike or to replace the word lower with gentle may capture the meaning that the other directors are searching for within this. So I move that we replace the word lower with gentle density.
And Director Lee?
I'd like to see gently increased to make sure that it's clear what we're looking for.
Yeah, we haven't got a secondary yet. But we haven't really dealt with the point that Director McMahon made, the concern around the word historic. I don't have that concern, but I just wondered if that is a sticking point for you.
I think it, yeah, I struggle with it a bit, but, you know, if I have to live with it, I can live with it.
And I think we just need to keep reminding ourselves this is not cut in stone. This is malleable, and this is just objectives. So how we move forward is still there. So is there a seconder for this motion with a gently increased amendment? No. And Director Lee, you have something further?
Yeah, I was considering what Director McMahon had said, and I was wondering if we even need those words. Recognize the existing residential densities of rural areas far from community hubs and prioritize gently increased densities in these areas. That's less words, says the same thing, doesn't leave any ambiguity.
And just to be clear, you just took out the word historic. Is that right?
Sorry?
You just took out the word historic? I didn't quite see what the difference
I
was.
put, after housing, I suggested we delete in developing community hubs. Whoops, wait a minute, wrong one.
Yeah.
It's after residential densities, eliminate established by historical development patterns. So it would then read, recognize the existing residential densities of rural areas far from community hubs and prioritize gently increased densities in these areas.
Autumn, did you get that? Okay. If we're okay again, we can always come back and change. My comment is I think this changes the intent of this, but because it's going from lower density to increased density, and that is a different, yeah. So for me, that's different, but I think we're.
Yes, for sure. It was intended to be different.
Yeah. So just so we're clear. Go ahead, Director McMahon.
Yeah, well, it may get some kickback, I realize that, but none of these areas is going to decrease in density. And I think realistically, there will be some increase, but slow increase, gentle increase, got that, yeah.
Okay, so we're still got a long way to go. So if all those in favor, and Director Gabius, I didn't see. Okay, me too. Okay, that passes. Director McMahon.
I don't know what F means. What the heck are cross-jurisdictional investments? I have no idea.
Staff, would you like to respond?
Thank you for the question. That one wears more of a regional planning lens, so it's sort of ROCP in rural areas, helping support cross-jurisdictional investments in the housing sector, so working with our other partners here on the Sunshine Coast, be it District of Sechelt, Town of Gibsons, or the First Nations. But it's not specific so that we can have flexibility in what that means as we go and develop the policies.
Can we leave it as is, or do you want it more clear?
It bothers me that we're passing things that nobody can figure out what they mean. Like, I get collaborating with our fellow local governments is a great thing. We want to do that, yay. And we want to say so. So the wording, I find challenging.
Can we move F with the caveat of more clear, friendly wording? Because I don't think any of us are ready to put very specific wording. GM Hall, do you have a suggestion?
Just as an inject to support the committee chair, if a reminder that objectives set out the direction we want to go, a goal we're trying to pursue or further explore, action-oriented steps or things that translate into perhaps zoning regulations typically exist as a policy underneath an objective. So the example of cooperating with member municipalities on affordable housing projects within the region, great policy statement, could slot under this objective.
Director Lee.
Yes, I think when we see cross-jurisdictional, the first thing that crossed my mind was, yeah, we're going to get the province and the feds to help us, but I'm not sure that that's what it means, So.
It might do with policies underneath it.
Yeah.
So, directors, is anyone willing to recommend F, and can we move forward, or what would we like to do? Director Gabius.
Yeah, I'll move F, and I think I'm very grateful for staff's patience and explanations, and I think we're just in that really awkward space where we're not seeing, because we've never gone through OCP processes, like we're not really seeing the next steps that staff inherently understands and can anticipate. But so yeah, I think we're trying to maybe like go a little deeper, but I have to remind myself that this is high level objectives, and they're all very good. So I'll move it.
So anybody want to second F, and then Director Lee?
The way I look at it, we're going to take whatever investments we can get, including private investments and not-for-profit investments. So I just try and list all the ones we hope to get. I think that'll have to come later.
Okay. And we have a seconder. So all those in favor? And that passes. Now, G, how are we looking at G? Director McMahon.
I found this one really odd because it specifically says to support residents, and that made it sound like we were a social service. Like our OCPs are not to support individual residents. They are to, lay out the form and character and future of our communities. And the result may be to support individual residents. And then I also struggled with the term precariously housed until I got to, I think, page 84, where I discovered it meant RVs. So that was another, again, I sort of get the direction this is going, but it was very difficult for me to pair out what this was intended to do.
Would it help if we just took out the word residents?
I need to think about this some more. We do need to address the types of precarious housing that we have in our community. And there's, through the avenues identified, but yeah, I need to read the follow-up detailed stuff again. But I mean, one of my questions would be, right now we have a loophole in our rural zoning that allows the establishment of campgrounds in very remote locations. And is it our intent to close that loophole?
I'm going to put that to staff, but I think that's our decision to make later on, how this is played.
That might even be the zoning.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll look to staff, and then I'm going to go to Director Lee.
Thank you. I'll just note that this particular objective is, again, at that high level, and so many of the things that I've heard talked about are the sort of things that we could package under here. Specifically, in terms of regulations, we would be talking about a zoning bylaw, where we might provide clarity at the board's direction and based on community input as to what to do about existing situations or potential loopholes in the zoning bylaw framework. And at a policy level, it can allow us to, direct what we will do about it within our purview. And then again, there's advocacy and partnership opportunities that we could seek to pursue. So it is meant to be broad and then develop the policy framework underneath it for future discussion. So I hope that helps. Thank you.
Director Lee.
Thank you, Chair. I was struggling with this one because I think we're mostly on land use is what we're talking about. And so I couldn't imagine what it would look like that would help. And I went to what Director McMahon was saying, but a little differently. Perhaps we should say, okay, you can do that, But I'd be interested in why we would have this here. That's my problem. This opportunity to support precariously housed residents is generally one that is taken care of by the province, and they offer the precariously housed various options of subsidized housing, which is not what we do. So I don't understand why we would have it.
I'd like staff to respond. If I'm not mistaken, we have to have certain statements about housing in our OCPs. So, but anyway, I'm sure staff can clarify that.
Thanks for the question, and a good one. So a way that this could work is that we could provide a policy and regulatory framework that would set the stage so that there could be investment from senior levels of government for the types of housing that are needed to support such residents. So sometimes we see those more precarious options starting to take form because we haven't actually put the regulations in place to support the type of housing that was actually needed. Thank you.
So it lengthens the process. If a project comes up, then they have to look at language and zoning, and I think that's where it goes. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. That cleared it up for me.
Director Bax.
Yeah, knowing that the OCP is indeed more of a land use document, that having something like this in here is more of a social project. It's I think to be a good government, a government that does good things, I think it's important that we continually think about the people in our communities that have less than what they actually need. And I know that we've already done work to advocate for changes within the laws around the RVs, et cetera, in order to allow people to stay in them longer. And I know that I'm just reading up here on the Capital Regional District has a housing project that's in with the BC government and BC Housing and the federal government and the CMHC as well, and they're working together on housing for their community. And I just it's because we don't have a housing function. But I am very interested in doing this kind of work, and so having it in our OCP, I think it's a visionary document for our community to see where we want. Do we want to have a kinder, gentler kind of government for our community or not? And so I like having it in here.
Yeah, I think you'll see the language through the objectives as more land planning, but yeah, we'll see how it comes out. Yeah, Director McMahon.
I'm going to throw out a possibility. I might, if it said avenues to address precarious housing, then I might get a little, that might make me a little happy, because I know that there is, I mean, questions about RVs and tiny homes particularly come up all the time. Like there's a big appetite out there and we need to try to do something. So I'm on board with the intent. I'm just struggling with the wording.
So you said avenues to address precariously housed.
No, precarious housing.
Precarious housing. Have you got that?
And then it says seek opportunities to support precariously housed residents.
Oh, so you're talking about the actual title.
The title.
Do you have that? Yeah, okay. Any further comments? I've got eyebrows knitting over in the corner here. Would you like to read that, Autumn?
So I'm just understanding it's the change to the title of G, avenues to address precarious housing, and the rest of the wording stays the same.
Does that fit? Director Gavious?
I'm not sure that I like that. It sounds like we want to crack down on precarious housing or something. Like to me, like the word support is important. I understand where Director McMahon is coming from, though, but it sounds harsh the way it is. And just to comment on that objective while I have the mic, I'm hoping that like my fear with this document, like my biggest fear is that not a lot changes when we're confronted with so many crises, and we need to kind of think outside the box here. There's a climate crisis, housing crisis, affordability crisis, you name it. And so I'm hoping that there's maybe some areas will be identified as places where there can be some innovations, or especially when it comes to more affordable housing, senior housing, et cetera, et cetera. My comments. So I don't know how to address the title, but I'll get back to Director McMahon.
So I'm going to bring it back to Director McMahon, then I'll go to Director Lee and Director Bax.
Perhaps we're looking for more flexibility around the people are precariously housed. Whether their actual housing is precarious enough or not is a definition thing, but we are looking for more flexibility to address these problems. I see what you're saying. Again, not sure how to move forward.
So we've got the word flexible in there somewhere, maybe. I'll just, does staff any suggestions?
Thank you, Chair. Staff would wonder if possibly a title short and sweet, such as Solutions to Precarious Housing, may be suitable. Thank you.
Okay, so let's just slide that one in there, and then I'll move on to Director Lee and then Director Bax.
I've read rather than precarious housing, I've heard people describe it as underhoused, which is a more gentle and actually describes more than just precarious house. Right. It's people that have a house, it's a good house, but it's not suitable for this large family, and they can't afford anything more. So we try to help that too. So
solutions to underhoused. We'll keep going with this. And Director Bax.
Yeah, and so my statement is about the aversion that Director McMahon has to the word residents within our community plan, because our community is full of residents. Without residents, we are not a community anyway. And a lot of the precarious housing that's going on is not just RVs, but it's also people that are couch surfing and people that are sleeping in their cars and things like this, and tenting. But but I do like what staff has brought forward as a new title for this, and that's G, solutions for the precariously housed.
Or underhoused, I think was
precariously and or underhoused.
No, just underhoused.
Okay.
It covers it.
And are we going to make that a motion?
I'd like to, because I'd like to keep moving on. And so we've got a motion. Director Bax, do we have a seconder? Okay, we'll see how we go with this. I'd like to call a motion. All those in favor? And that passes. Anyone opposed? Director McMahon, would you like your opposition? No. Okay, thanks. Okay, now we're on H, advocacy, education, and monitoring. Do we have any specific questions or concerns about that? We'll just wear you all down. Director Bax.
I'd just like to move H as it stands.
Do we have a seconder? I'll second out of interest. Any comments? Seeing none, I'll call the vote on H. All those in favor, and that passes. Okay, housing. Now, Director McMahon.
We're missing two in my view. One was the recognition of unique character of neighborhoods. I haven't found the exact right wording for that, but we all know what we mean because we've got these special places that people want to recognize.
So can we put a motion to that one, or do you want to put them together?
We could do that. Does anybody have, my suggestion was recognize unique character neighborhoods. I don't know if anybody's got a better idea.
Director Lee?
I was wondering if we just put that into B and added recognize unique character of some neighborhoods. Maybe that's
Director McMahon, we could do that, or we could just actually just add it in.
I think it should be its own point because it keeps coming up in feedback from the public, and I think it's important to reflect that feedback that we've heard.
GM Hall.
Thank you. In bringing forward these objectives, staff have said a couple of times that we're seeking general direction for the next phase of the project. The wording probably can, well, the wording definitely can and probably will change and evolve as we see how everything fits together. So if it assists the committee, a consideration, if you are seeing aspects that you feel may not be covered here, would be just to identify them without feeling the pressure to wordsmith them in the moment. So, thanks.
So would that work better for you? Yeah.
Then when would we come back at them? This is a public-facing document, so I think it's really important for us to show that we have listened and that we care about these things. Ian's waving.
Go ahead, Director Hall.
Thanks,
Or
Chair.
GM Hall.
Your call how staff engage here. I just, because we absolutely value the community input in this project so far and want to ensure that next steps are clear and understood. I appreciate the moment to say the first check back will be July staff reports where we talk about spatial aspects of the OCP. The second bigger multi-month check back will be phase 3 engagement.
Okay.
Can I just quickly, you're making a very clear statement for a reason that's actually outside the process. It's recognizing as directors that we are listening to our communities, and I think we've all heard that comment. And for the line item that it is, it's a motion just sitting there. I don't see a problem with moving forward this way. And then we know that it's covered.
And it may be coming, if that is coming in July, that's okay.
Yeah.
I just, it's super important.
Yep.
So I could drop this if we know that we're going to get there next month.
I think for comfort level, I think you've got a line item here. Let's add it in, and then we know we've got it. Okay. Do you have the title, Autumn?
I just drafted that recognizing unique character neighborhoods be added as an objective.
Do I have a seconder? Okay, Director Gabias. Ready to vote? All in favor? Okay, and then you had a second one?
Yeah, this doesn't recognize the importance of home-based businesses in our communities. They're a really fundamental part of our residential neighborhoods. And that includes farms, which are also home-based businesses. And although we're not doing an economic development thing that's different, it really is part of the form, the character, and even the ability of people to live in our neighborhoods is having these home-based businesses. I think our current zoning bylaw is not bad in trying to hit the balance of, because you want people to have the businesses, but you don't want businesses that are an extreme nuisance to their neighbors. But I think we need to recognize that somehow in this.
So I'll also leave it to staff, but also point out that we do have aspects of our current OCPs that will be included on those lines. And again, I'm not saying we should or shouldn't, but a reminder that it isn't, we're starting from scratch. We're just bringing in some newer aspects based on housing. So it's not that we're going to lose those parts of our OCPs that focus on home-based businesses. But again, we want to put it in. It's a simple request. We have a line item. And if I've got a seconder, then we can vote on it. Okay, so we want to be clear on the wording.
Could we just say support home-based businesses?
More brow knitting over in the corner.
Yeah, no. I was not anticipating that we were going to wordsmith today, so
No, I'm just, and I don't want to push you into that, but it's just trying to get the subject out there. Director Gavious?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm just trying to understand, like, there's something missing now that we need to address in the new OCP, or like, what would that look like? I'm just trying to understand.
This is for Director McMahon.
Right, yeah.
We're setting objectives for housing. And there's all kinds of historical stuff in our OCPs, and some of it's going to get lost for good reasons, but we're establishing our priorities here. And one of the things that I heard a lot was that we didn't have anything about economics, and it's not a pillar, but it's inextricably linked to the housing in our areas. So I think it's important.
Do we have words we can work with? Autumn, what do you have so far? We're just looking for general, because again, this is all going to come back.
Just put that support for home-based businesses be added as an objective.
That works. Okay. Seconder? All those in favor? Yeah. Director Lee?
I'm curious what the wording was of that. I missed it.
Support for home-based business be added as an objective.
Okay.
It's not a tombstone. It's.
I'm definitely
okay
in support of that. I'm just trying to figure out if this is the place for that, but I guess we'll figure that out later.
Yeah. Okay. So Director McMahon, can we move on to, it's not just Director McMahon, it's everybody. Can we move on to recommendation 2? Yes, okay. So our recommendation 2, and I appreciate with staff, I appreciate your patience on this, is where we're having the discussion. It's our only public opportunity to talk about what we've heard. So this is why we're going through this as tightly as we are. So number 2, the OCP drafting mandate for climate and environment includes research and development of the following objectives. We've got a series of objectives. Is there anything you're going to pull out? Can we go through it one by one? Director Lee?
I was suggesting we go through them one by one. I think they're in the right order.
Okay.
Lots of notes here, though.
Okay. Go ahead, Director McMahon.
And maybe this is for July, but are we somehow in our OCP identifying high climate risk areas? Because we have, or maybe that would be, maybe we get more specific about it. What are the high climate risks? Like, this is a high coastal flooding risk area, but I just, how do we address that? The reason I'm asking is because I often think that residents, when they are choosing to live in a particular place, are not giving sufficient thought, perhaps, to the climate risks that are coming at them in certain areas. And I'm all in favor of informed decision-making.
Staff, is that can be addressed elsewhere, or how do we fit that in?
Thanks for the question. So in the existing OCPs that will be integrated and moved forward, we have many ways in which that shows up, both in terms of policy in the OCPs and in the existing development permit area framework that talks about hazards and environmentally sensitive areas. We also have new data on that is technical inputs that are feeding into this process. I'd also point to letter F under recommendation number 2 that might shine some further light on some of the policy intent here. Thank you.
Okay, so we're just going to move on with A, is reduce emissions. Any comments? Director Lee and then Director McMahon.
I think it's a good idea to do this, but I don't want us to see us make our own guidelines. So I put implement provincial guidelines and left everything the same, except I took provincial out of the end and put in there. So implement provincial guidelines, policies, programs, and infrastructure that reduces greenhouse gas emissions and helps the regions meet those objectives.
Okay, that's noted. Director McMahon?
I'm going to disagree with that because we have some policies, programs, and guidelines of our own, including air quality, our burning bylaws. And that was raised by my APC, is that there's nothing in here anywhere about air quality, which is important. And it seems to me that it generally fits under reduced emissions. It's not just about greenhouse gases, but also the air quality for all of us who are breathing in these neighborhoods is important. Again, not prepared with the wordsmithing, but I wanted to flag that.
Okay, Director Lee, I'm also feeling that by putting the provincial, meeting provincial guidelines only is limiting us, and I don't want to do that.
After listening to Director McMahon's, I think probably the original was better than to make sure that happens.
Any other comments? And if somebody would like to move A, reduce emissions? Seeing none. Director Bax moved. Do we have a seconder? Director Gabius, and ready to vote on that recommendation. All in favor? And that passes. Okay, B, protect sensitive areas. Do we have any comments on that one? Director McMahon?
Recommendation from my APC that in the body of the text, not the heading, that we say protect and regenerate ecologically important areas. They felt we were not going far enough, and I am inclined to agree with them.
Did you get that, Autumn? Yeah. Any comments on that? Director Lee?
I have a little concern because I don't think we want to be making those rules. I think it's the province's job to make those rules and our job to make sure our land use bylaws align with them. So I'm struggling. I don't know that we'd want to take on the province's job of doing studies and figuring out what's what.
And that's in general, not just to the comment that Director McMahon made. Okay. Director McMahon?
I think it's all of our responsibility to protect and regenerate ecologically important areas. And a lot of this is kind of aspirational, and it is outside our direct purview. But we can support it as much as we can with the policies that we create. So,
Director Gabius?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And trying to understand how this fits with land use, because I understand the protection, with DPAs and, let's not grow there, or let's go carefully here, et cetera. but how would it play out? Like regenerating, how would that play out? I'm just trying to understand, again, like how it would manifest itself in the document. If you have any examples, that'd be great.
Staff, do you have an example? I'm thinking of one that we saw today. So anyway, staff, if you want to answer.
Thanks for the question. So the basic legislation of what must be included in an OCP does include policies and statements. I'm paraphrasing here without the act right in front of me, that place restrictions on the use of land that are known to be hazardous and or environmentally sensitive. So that's a basic nuts and bolts that we must consider in our OCP. And this is where the province does have some other acts and legislation that help give guidance for the things that we must do. And then there are optional things that we could do. So in that way that there can be levels of protection that as a board you can decide on within community input as to what those appropriate levels of protection are. At this level, this particular policy is meant to guide a broader set of policies underneath. And so as we get more into the drafting phase, there'll be more detail to dive into on what that can look like and what the options are. Thank you.
And I'd just like to add, like, for instance, today there was a development permit application with options considered by the proponent to regenerate appropriate greenery around the disturbed area. Is there opportunities in that kind of direction to provide more direction and support for that kind of consideration? That would be how I would think of it, just on a very small scale. But if staff want to comment on that.
Thanks. So certainly there can be things like development permit area guidelines that can guide what we want to see as a community in terms of what that regeneration might look like. And that might vary depending on the scale of development that's happening. So for example, a large multifamily development that might be having, a big subdivision or something like that might have a higher bar than, say, someone who's looking to put a new detached accessory dwelling unit in their backyard. So those are all the sort of decisions that we get to make as a community, and you as a board get to decide on what those correct levels of protection are and what they look like. Staff will be bringing forward in July a package that talks about some of the more spatial pieces, including the existing development permit area suite that we have in play and what some of those options could look like moving forward with the integration. Thank you.
So if that helps, do we have a recommendation from someone?
Well, I was going to move B with the addition of and regenerate in the
body.
In the body.
Okay, I got a seconder. All those in favor? And anyone opposed? Would you like that recorded? Director Lee? Okay, thank you.
Concerned about driving up the cost of land unnecessarily.
Okay.
We sure can do that with regulations.
Yeah, I hear you. So now we're on to C, Steward Aquifers and Watersheds. Any additional comments to that? Director McMahon?
I'd just like to move C.
Okay. Any other comments? All those in favor? And that passes. We're on to D, Conserve Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. Director McMahon?
Nowhere in here is there protection for agricultural land, which is important climatically for all kinds of reasons. And yeah, it says land management to conserve biodiversity and ecosystem services. I would, somewhere in here, I'd like to get protecting our agricultural land assets as a possibility.
And we could also add it as a separate objective, potentially. But Director Bax, you want to comment?
Yeah, my question about that is that agricultural land is already under the ALR, and so, not all of it. No, I guess not. And it does. I guess I see your point. Yeah. Okay.
Director Lee?
I'm wondering if we need this because we have DPs already. And is it up to us to say what biodiversity is and that it has to be conserved? And I don't understand what an ecosystem service is as well. Ecosystem is something on itself, but what the heck is a service? I don't understand that either. And I'm at the very end of it, and protects development from natural hazards. We have the DPs that do that already. So I'm quite confused about this one.
So Director McMahon is going to take a stab at interpreting, and then if that doesn't work, we'll talk.
I think ecosystems, I'm assuming, and staff can correct me, that we're talking about natural assets. So the ecosystem does things for us, like it drains away stormwater when we don't screw it up. And when I'm talking about regenerating too, like rain gardens are something that can add value by creating more biodiversity and stormwater management options. I'm generally fine with this one, except for the lack of addressing protection for, and maybe agriculture is the wrong term, but for land that's being used for farmland. It's one of my ongoing frustrations that the province defines agriculture solely as an economic activity, and it doesn't look at all of its other dimensions, like the importance for local food security and also the absorption of the land. So it supports our water systems and our aquifers and our biodiversity of birds and pollinators, and on it goes. And so the short-sightedness of the province is fairly dismal, but somehow I'd like us to get that dimension in here.
So I'm just going to jump in here really quick. I would prefer to see that as a separate line item here within that group. And staff, do you have anything to add to the comment from Director Lee about how this fits into our purview versus the province, or what's already in there?
Thank you for the question. So 2D we're on here. I recognize there's a possible another line item coming as well, but in relation to 2D, that particular one was adopted as part of a resilience strategy through the Community Climate Action Plan previously. So that is also an example of the type of work that local governments can do that augments that of the province, and that is within the board's purview to consider the level of protections that they deem appropriate for those things that maybe are just not covered by the province because they're not that sort of local scale. Thank you.
And I'm very supportive of this also because I'm hearing a lot about it in my communities about how important it is to have this expression objective throughout the OCP. So who would like to move this? D. And we won't forget. Okay. Director Gabias, do we have a seconder? Director Bax. I recognize Director Lee. You may have some difficulty with this. I'm not sure if it follows your...
It's my previous comment.
Yeah.
And especially the last one, augment the provincial regulations. That means put more regulations on top of what the province does. That's really a good idea, huh? Not for me.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see it. But.
It doesn't. That's what the clarification was given to us.
Okay. All those ready to vote? All those in favor? Those not in favor? And that's 2. Would you like your vote recorded? Yeah. So we'd have that recorded. Line item E, foster complete compact communities. Do we have any comments about that? Director McMahon?
How is this different from community hubs?
Staff?
Thank you for the question. This is paralleling some of the thinking behind community hubs, but I will say that this particular recommendation did also come out of the Community Climate Action Plan work. Thank you.
Follow up?
Yeah, I just want to say, again, wordsmithing, but we want to foster the compact communities in the areas where it's appropriate. I think what people are worried about is that we're going to make everything compact, and that's not the intent here. So I would like to maybe wordsmith it a little to say, you know, we'll foster compact communities where it makes sense, sort of thing.
So if you don't want to get into wordsmithing, we could also just not pass that one, but have make it so kind of language. Make it more clear. Or do you want to just go with this one? Or do you want to skip it right now and move on? Director Lee?
I really struggled with this because my community says we're rural and we like it that way. And we consider our community complete. And it's got absolutely no amenities. It's just a bunch of people that live together and make their own community association and look after each other and make their own fire departments. And they consider that a compact and complete community. They foster it themselves. So I in fact, we're rural and we like it. But foster, I think, means where the community wants it. Let's help them. I'm okay with that part. So I don't exactly know how to wordsmith that.
GM Hall.
Thank you. This would be an example of an objective that is that really lacks any spatial description, and on which I can assure you in July with our information package that will provide you with the organizing framework that you asked for around land use types. You'll see a spatial expression of this type of objective. Thank you.
Would it help if we said foster complete compact communities where desired? I mean, it takes out the environmental aspect, so it's kind of wondering where this fits. Because this is under the environmental lens. Director McMahon.
Would it change the meaning if we said foster compact community hubs? Or is that going off in a whole other, because I thought that's what we're talking about for the most part, but.
Yeah, it's because it's under the environmental lens. That's the part that's changing it, and I think that's part of the confusion. Go ahead, Director Gabius.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And yeah, I recognize this from the Community Climate Action Plan, so I understand why the wording is the way it is. There has been some reactions to that wording with my residents. I think there's maybe a knee-jerk reaction, like this means density, this means traffic, et cetera, et cetera. So I understand, I kind of foster community hubs I don't know if you even need to say compact, because then that ties it to, I don't know, is it a good idea to tie it to the housing one? Yeah, I'm not sure. Like the reaction I got from that was very surprising to me because I'm like, yeah, this is amazing. Like this is a little neighborhood, little village, like where you can walk to the cafe, you can meet people, you can walk around. You know, there's kids playing, but folks seem to have a very different understanding than I did. So I was a little taken aback by that. But it is, yeah, so do we want to stick with the community climate action plan wording to tie it to that? Or do we want to tie it to the housing piece? Not sure what's the best.
Just looking for staff input on this, but because it's sitting under the climate action or environment, it's how do you focus the purpose of it in that direction rather than into the housing direction? If that's what I understand correctly, if staff want to add to that.
Thanks for the question and understanding the challenging balance of trying to communicate what we're trying to achieve here. Perhaps it's the word compact in there that is a little bit of issue in that it can mean different things in different areas, and it likely will, depending on what the ability is and community will is for an area to take on housing and what types of forms that looks like. And so it might be different for different areas. So I'm wondering if it's the compact that's the challenge in there, and perhaps that removing that might still achieve the same balance. And we can talk about the levels of compactness under the housing pillar in terms of like where it is, what it is, and how appropriate it is. And some of this also, I will add, will come more clear as we develop the policy framework underneath this. So whether or not the compact remains in or remains out, we could also clarify it. There could be direction to clarify what that means and how it applies through the policy underneath, rather than amending the wording as it sits. Thank you.
Director McMahon?
I think that's a good suggestion. I mean, complete communities sounds really good. Who's going to want incomplete communities? So, yeah, I think that might be a nice way forward.
I was going to simplify it even more because I think part of the confusion is it keeps relating to other community values is foster compact communities with efficient service delivery and shorter travel while reducing environmental impacts of distributed development, which just focuses in on the environmental aspect, not talking about providing vibrant community life, which goes somewhere else. Does it dull it down? Yep. Did you get that? So it's just taking out compact and then also providing vibrant community life, taking that out. And same providing efficient service delivery. So that focuses it in on the environmental value we're looking for. And I also want to add for Director Lee, this is, my understanding is it's not something you have to do. And I think that's where we're getting into a bit of a challenge. We're trying to acknowledge different types of communities without imposing a particular value on all communities. And I'm not sure if we're getting that by the kind of comments Director Lee is making.
Yeah, I really struggle with this one because in my community, we have a lot of part-time people, and they form their own community, but they travel up, bring stuff with them, never move till they go home again, hang out at the lake. And this is kind of saying that that's a bad thing, but it's not, it's a good thing. So I guess it's the language I'm struggling with. For sure, I like a nice, complete, compact community in Madeira, up in Egmont, you know, over in Garden Bay, sure. There's definitely areas that we need them. I can think of probably all of us having at least one area we'd like to have that, but not everywhere. So I'm struggling with the words.
Director Gabias?
Yeah, and I think we're circling back to some of the discussion that we were having earlier, where it makes sense, where people want it. And also just want to add, like, complete communities mean amenities as well, right? So like kind of a way to tie in economics, like the economy in there too, and supporting local businesses or something. I feel like that fits in there. But yeah, it's like not, I mean, it would be like for someone like me, like I would love to be able to walk to a coffee shop in Half Moon Bay, in Welcome Woods, to meet with my constituents, for example. Like that's, to me, like that would make it a more complete community instead of saying like, well, let's meet in Seashelt on Wednesday in between things, right? Like, so like Pender, for example, like they have the grocery store, they have the restaurants, like that's great. They don't have to drive, all the way to Seashelt 45 minutes in order to go shopping.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I'm not sure if we're going to be able to word it in a way that I'll look to GM Hall. It's trying to acknowledge that this isn't for everybody. It's allowing for it's just a particular aspect.
With an organizing framework that could talk about what completeness and what compact means in different areas of our region, which is part of that package of spatial decisions that will guide drafting. There's the opportunity to consider that compact in some areas means you can walk to get food, but that's a farm gate. Or the amenity that you're close to is a recreational trail. In another area, we could use the same terms of compact or complete, but it might mean a playground or it might mean a coffee shop. And that delineation of different levels of intensity of use should be clear before we start drafting, and is part of a staff's commitment to bring you the information you need to give us direction on next steps in July. Thanks.
Director Gabius.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And is this going to be like through the third phase of engagement? Is that how we're going to ask people to pinpoint where those places are? Like, when are we going to ask people to give feedback on that officially?
Staff? Whoever.
Thanks for the question. Sorry, I have a sticky button on my mic here sometimes. So in July, we'll be bringing forward some spatial-based considerations for the board's consideration. Part of that will be considering how we look at those areas that we might have more opportunities for growth in compared to others. So those will all be things that once we have some direction coming out of July, that report pending, we will go away and do some drafting, and then phase 3 engagement plan has yet to be decided upon in terms of what the precise pieces look like, but staff will consider how to best engage the community on those as we move forward. I would note that also those areas I've got some notes being passed to me here, that those areas that are developed beyond the technical studies were also informed by phase 2 engagement as well. Thanks.
So we have under E, we have a potential objective. It hasn't been seconded. I do want to keep moving because I think we're going to start running out of time very quickly. So I moved it. I don't think there was a seconder. Seconder with Director Lee. Is there any other comments?
And what was this to foster complete communities? Is that where we're at here?
I think, can you read it back on them?
So under E, it says foster complete communities, and then the description says foster complete communities with efficient service delivery and shorter travels while reducing environmental impacts of distributed development.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it was seconded. So, Director Lee.
I'm wondering if we want to leave providing vibrant community life.
It's up to you. I mean, I was just trying to figure out how to.
I guess it don't hurt, but it kind of says if you don't have a compact community, you don't have a vibrant community life. You took it out?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I got it.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, I really like to move on. So F is strength and resilience. Any comments, Director Lee?
I think we just accept F as is.
Okay. Got a seconder? All those in favor? Great. So now we're on to number 3. And further, the OCP drafting mandate for transportation includes research development into the following objectives. Director McMahon.
Okay, I just want to back off into a slightly broader question for a minute, because there was that note that we are not really planning transportation because it's not our job, it's outside our mandate. When we're doing the OCP, how will we clearly communicate to the public those things that lie within our purview and those things where we only have influence? Because that's one of the confusions about this whole process. We set these, very lovely objectives, but many of them are outside of our control. Like there's a lot of references to stormwater all through these documents, and ultimately we don't control that. So how do we navigate that?
GM Hall, I'm starting to fall asleep.
Thank you, Chair. A non-exclusive list of strategies that staff have in mind are very careful drafting that acknowledges our role and uses the right words related to our role. Secondly, including explanatory information in a sidebar of the final laid out document. Thirdly, standalone resources that run with or parallel to an OCP and exist on SCRD's website. And fourth, an implementation plan that makes it clear which actions we're taking for things that are not within our service areas or direct control. Thanks.
Okay, can we pass this one as a group, or do we have comments on any of the particular items? I see nothing. I do have one edit for E, marine transportation. I'd like to sort of expand it slightly and just say enable and promote safe, stable, and efficient marine access and marine transportation. I didn't mention the word dock, not once. And so are we okay with passing the rest of this the way that it is? Yeah, oh, good. Okay, if there's no other comments or questions, I'd like to call a question on the whole of item 3 with the amendment that I made. All those in favor? Any opposed? No. Okay, that passes. Okay, and number 4, that community associations be engaged to provide input on area character statements. We have mover. Oh, you've got a question?
Yeah, how are we going to get the first draft of the area character statements? Are we going to maybe ask our APCs, or are we going to? I have this vision of throwing it wide open. Well, it would be wild open to the communities writing their own character statements, unless we put a character limit of like 500 characters. It could turn into an epic. So I'm wondering how we're going to handle this.
GM Hall.
Thank you. Yes, staff had the same concerns that without guidance and support, we're unlikely to achieve happiness. So staff have contemplated a structured process that would involve applying the board's direction about integration. What have we got already? What might be suitable for carry forward? And some prescription to both recognize the work that this would be if we're asking for collaboration, and also ensure that we get relatively equitable and contributions from around the community. Thanks.
Is there, when I said a character limit, I wasn't altogether kidding. Do we have like an idea of what are we looking for, 200 words or 500 words, or as somebody who tried to edit the description of my area in our annual report and struggled horribly, it's not easy, but if we set some guidelines right away, then maybe it will help.
Staff, yeah. And also, I think we need to show them just what they have. Like, give them what they have now and go from there. Like, I think they need that, sort of gives them the goalposts to work with.
We have an essay starting with Indigenous people and covering Captain Cook and Captain Vancouver, and I think that's maybe more than we need.
Okay, character limit. We don't have that in area of. So good comment, but I do want to make sure we haven't passed number 4, but the one thing we didn't go back to agriculture. You didn't put a. Go ahead, Director Mc.
Yeah.
Kathy.
What about, I'm just jogging my memory to One Straw Society and what they submitted, and how about something like support or something about food systems, right? Like the, instead of focusing on agricultural land, making it a broader, and making it about food systems, and how do we support that, promote that?
Would that go under a separate item
Yeah, I
altogether?
guess so.
Because that doesn't sound like it's the environmental lens that it was originally under. GM Hall.
Thank you, Chair. Respecting the board's or the committee's prerogative to add objectives under the climate and environment pillar as you may wish, this would be an example, like just as a process refresher, this would be an example where through our existing OCPs informed by the agricultural area plan, we do have a bunch of objectives and policies that will be considered for carry forward. We also have a very comprehensive set of submissions for policy proposals from the community that will be analyzed through the board's directed policy evaluation framework. So there will absolutely be agriculture, food systems, and agricultural land objectives and policies brought forward in a draft OCP. But again, respect your prerogative if you wish to add something about that now. Thanks.
Pleasure of the board.
Unfortunately, I don't have good wording on hand, but during our APC meeting, there was a really absolutely epically great suggestion, which unfortunately didn't get written down. So maybe we'll come back to this at a future time, but it was great.
So I'm counting on Director Gavious and Director McMahon not to lose this thread, and that we will fit this in because it is important. Yeah. Okay, so we still have number 4. I think we had a seconder. And everyone ready to vote? All those in favor? And that passes. Whew. Thank you very much. Again, huge amount of material that we can always refer back to, and we look forward to July when we get it again. Thank you, staff. Okay, so we are at, we're now at the minutes of the APCs. I'd rather look at them as a whole. Does anybody want to highlight anything specific from their APCs? recognizing that the information from these minutes does further inform the objectives. And I think we also listened to them as well because they came into the objectives as well. So Director Lee and then Director Bax.
I have just one question, and that is on page 128 of my, it's a simple question. Electoral Area A wanted the zoning bylaw amendment options to address Bill 44 compliant, deferred until the July 8th Area A APC meeting. Do we need a motion to put that back on there, or will that just automatically go on the next one?
I didn't totally understand that, but anyway, if somebody could respond to that. GM Hall?
Thank you, Chair. This one has some nuance. If the APC would like to further discuss this file and the question that was referred to them, that's fine, and staff would be happy to facilitate the topic being on the agenda. The nuance comes in that the board has provided direction on this to amend bylaws to ensure minimum compliance is achieved by the end of the year. What happens beyond, and so staff are working on that and are preparing bylaw amendments to come forward. The question that was put to APCs was, what does your community need to digest that change? And we did hear from a number of APCs that they also wanted to talk about and were keen to ensure that additional community desires around small-scale multi-unit housing were contemplated through the OCP project and the housing objectives that we just talked about, that the board has endorsed a project to do that. That is happening. And so just wanted to, I guess, clarify that if the same report is on, if discussion on the same report is continued in July, that it is about how we go forward with the minimum compliance path, not a decision of minimum compliance versus something else. And I guess the last thing to say is, in saying that, we will be bringing forward the amendments you asked for, and how the board grapples with those amendments is your work to do. Thank you.
Follow-up, Director Lee.
Yes, there is going to be a draft bylaw brought to us for our approval. But whether we give approval or not, we still have to make up our mind. And I was looking for recommendations from my APC before I make that final decision. So my question kind of was, is July 8th before the bylaw is going to come to us? Like the bylaw is coming to us sometime after that date. If it's not, then it's a waste of time. And if it is, then it's probably a valuable thing to do.
Staff?
Staff can confirm that July 8th is before you would see a draft bylaw.
And then Director McMahon and then Director Bax has comment.
I'll just point out that your APC can always vote to amend their agenda and include the report from last month. So, just saying.
So it sounds like we're going to do that and everything will happen. I don't need to put a motion forward, is my question. And I think that's the answer.
I think yes. It's in line, yeah. Director Bax? Okay. Okay, so we'll receive all those APCs. And going to number 5, there's no new communications. Number 6, there's no new business. Number 7, would somebody like to read going into camera? Go ahead, Director Gabius. I've just finished Trust Council and we have to read all this stuff out, but if we don't, go ahead. Yep.
That the public be excluded from attendance at the meeting in accordance with Section 91C and E of the Community Charter, Labor Relations and Other Employee Relations, and the acquisition, disposition, and expropriation of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality.
All those in favor? Okay, we're going into camera. Thank you. Thanks, Jonathan, for all that. That was a lot. Welcome back. We're back into the open portion of our electoral areas services meeting. Is there, I call for questions after the adjournment, right? So I'd like to adjourn this meeting. Do I have a motion? Seconder? All those in favor? Passes. And is there anybody in the gallery? No. Okay. I'm not surprised. Thank you, everyone.